Hey guys, welcome back, and today I am showing you guys a build that I made for the Backfire for Legendary difficulty. Now of course you can use this in Heroic, it doesn't have to be Legendary only, but I made it with Legendary difficulty in mind. And yeah, so I'm going to roll the gameplay, and then once I come back I will talk about the build and explain it. Now that the gameplay is over, let's talk about the build itself. So for starters, we're using the Technician specialization, and the reason why is because we get an extra skill tier, and we also get an extra 12% damage to drones, skill proxies, and robotics. And the extra damage is nice, especially for Legendary difficulty, because you're fighting the Warhounds and the mini tanks and everything all the time. And the reason we have the skill tier is because we're using the shield, and the skill tier does help our shield. So getting into the actual build itself, of course we are running the Backfire. The Backfire is an exotic SMG, as I'm sure a lot of you know, that has mag size. So the talent, if you don't know, dealing damage to an enemy adds a stack of 1% crit damage up to 200 stacks lasting 10 seconds. So you can get 200% extra crit damage as long as you keep shooting and building those stacks. On reload, you apply a 10-second bleed to yourself, which deals 0.5% armor damage per stack. So essentially, if you are not immune to bleed, you can kill yourself with this thing, which is why I have 100% hazard protection on this build, and I will show that off as well in the actual build. So, for starters with our gear, we're going to talk about the backpack, and the reason I'm doing the backpack first is because I'm using the Ninja Bike. Now the Ninja Bike, for those of you who don't know, essentially what it does is add a missing piece to your brand set. So if we look at the mask, even though I only have one piece of Seska on this build, I'm getting the 10% crit chance and the 10% hazard protection, even though I only have one piece of Seska. And that is only done because of the Ninja Bike. So my mask has crit chance, hazard protection, and crit damage mod. My chest piece is one of 3 pieces of strikers I'm using on this build. Again, I'm using the Ninja Bike, so I get the 4-piece striker bonus. Now, strikers give us 15% weapon handling, 15% rate of fire, and the striker's gamble talent. If you don't know what striker's gamble does, weapon hits increase total weapon damage by 0.65%, stacking up to 100 times. So you get 100 stacks of extra 0.65% weapon damage. 1 stack is lost per second between 0 and 50 stacks, 2 stacks are lost per second between 50 and 100 stacks. Now the chest piece, and the reason we're using it is because it increases those stacks from 100 stacks to 200 stacks, and 3 stacks are lost per second between 100 and 200 stacks. Now, you may think that this, and I'm sure a lot of you will say that this is hard to keep up those 200 stacks, but it really is not that bad. It's a lot easier to keep up these 200 stacks than you would think. So the chest piece has hazard protection and crit damage mod. The gloves have hazard protection. The knee pads have hazard protection. And the holster is a piece of Cavalier. Now the reason we're using a piece of Cavalier is because for the 2-piece brand set bonus, which of course again we are unlocking because of the Ninja Bike, gives us 30% hazard protection, which is a lot. That is a good chunk of hazard protection. It's really useful for this. So we also have a 10% hazard protection attribute on that, and all of this together plus the 10% that we get from our watch, because we do get 10% hazard protection from our watch, amounts to 100% hazard protection, as you can see here. We are completely immune to hazards. The only hazard that you will have is that if your shield breaks, you will get disoriented. That is unavoidable, even if you have 100% disorient resistance. So, unfortunately, that's not something that we can avoid, but that's okay. Now, for talking of my skills, I went with a shield and a reviver hive. Now, if you don't want to use a reviver hive, you can use riot foam, a booster hive, decoy, scanner pulse. There's quite a few skills you could use here. It's up to you. And this is just personally what I decided to go with. Now your secondary doesn't really matter that much. I went with the rock and roll just because for stack building purposes for striker, but you can use whatever you want for your secondary. You could use an AR or another SMG, whatever you want really. Sidearm doesn't matter, just use whatever you want. I have 52% crit chance and 86% crit damage, but of course remember the 86% crit damage is only temporary, and our base crit damage with this build, we go up to 286% once we get all our backfire stacks built up. So yeah, the one thing I will say as well is that the idea for this build, and the reason I even thought about making this, is because I saw a build video from another YouTuber that I will put their name on screen now, and I will link to that video that I'm talking about as well. He made a striker armor regen build, and I realized that with strikers, because of the ridiculous amount of weapon damage that strikers gives you, you don't really need crit damage to be able to hit hard. Now, with this build is a little different, but it's a combination of the striker buff and the crit damage from the Backfire that is giving us those high numbers. But in his build, the way that he had it set up, you could hit 800k, damn near 900k body, and over 1 mil headshots with only like 50% crit damage. It's actually ridiculous. So after testing that build for myself and realizing this, it really opened my eyes to the potential of strikers, and that's how I eventually decided to sit down and come up with this build. So that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope to see you next video. I'm out. Peace. Alright. Bye, guys.